Hello and welcome back to What If a Billionaire Invested in Turkey, Part 3. We've gone 5 years in the future since last episode, and we're going to now investigate what has happened. But first of all, looking at this Turkish national side, they're sitting 32nd in the world, so they've not really changed too much really. If we look at their world rankings recently, they reached a low of 53rd actually in the mid-2027s, but bounced up in 2028, so perhaps had a decent run there in European football, in like the Euros or World Cup, something like that, but have dropped down recently to 32nd. That's the lowest they've been for quite some time actually. So we'll have a little quick look at the schedules. Have they made big competitions? They got to the European Championships, but got knocked out in the second round, got knocked out in the second round by Serbia of all teams. So Serbia must be having a bit of a good time at the moment. They're 23rd. They must be a decent side, to be fair. But other than that, nothing. I mean, two major. Had a very poor year in 2026, and 2025 was a very good year. So up and down there. How are they doing in the World Cup qualifying? They're doing all right, to be fair. Group 7. Is that a decent group? Have they got a chance of getting to the World Cups? Where is Group 7? Group 7, they're third, so no, basically. Right, looking at the national team then, these are two names that I don't think I've seen before. Now, Ömer Demir is a regen, 21 years old, 159 current ability, 180 potential, which is very decent. Plays for Bursaspor. Has played there his entire career, went on loan for a little bit, but has done pretty well, to be fair, for Bursaspor in his past few seasons, so I can see why he's so good. Made 3 caps of Turkey at age of 21, but this guy, Fulgencio, is that how you say it? I think Fulgencio. I don't recognise seeing him, and he's 28 years old, so he should be around a little bit. Has he got like other nationalities or something like that? Brazilian, yeah. So I presume he's converted to Turkish national time. He couldn't get into the Brazilian one, for example. So I think he's coming through. But 159 current ability is not going to reach that 174 potential, obviously. Kano Kokak, still there. 163 sort of maxed out at. Still at Fenerbahce. But of course has moved between a few clubs in Istanbul. So probably one of the most hated men in Istanbul actually, but has stuck around with Fenerbahce for a while now, doing very, very well actually, just about every season, so fair play to him. Berke Oza we've seen before and things like that. So we'll look quickly at the under-21s. This guy's the best 143 potential, but nothing crazy there. Under-20s 152, 150, some good guys there. 16 years old as well, he may reach that, he could be a decent player in the future. And then under-19s 155 is the best guy in there at 17 years old. Serhat Yerinkaya is probably not how you say it, but that's how I've said it at least. So he looks like the best guy in the under-19. So it looks like a decent future for Turkey, perhaps with some of these regens coming through, but not quite the level you'd expect if you want them to be winning like the World Cup, I don't think. Right, Turkish Super League then. It's moved up to 6th in the competition rankings. And before I forget, I forgot to do it last episode. So if we look at Europe, nation club coefficients. Obviously, Turkey now sitting in 6th. It's going to stay in 6th for next season, but it's not far behind France actually in terms of European coefficients. Next time we'll go 10 years in the future, and I don't think it will challenge England, Spain or Italy, but potentially it could get as high as 4th, I reckon. So I reckon Turkey's got a chance of maybe breaking that top 4, perhaps even top 3 if they get some good performances next time out in European football. We'll look first of all at the league then, these past 5 seasons. The 25-26 Galatasaray win that with Fenerbahce in 2nd, and this team Karabükspor finishing in 3rd, but they've sort of had a bit of a resurgence. They sort of got promoted and sort of were up there in the upper echelons actually the past few seasons, so fair play to them, coming from the first division and sort of bouncing up and down the past few years, I suppose. Besiktas, Antalyaspor and Başakşehir in 4th, 5th and 6th respectively, though a few teams on 56 points there as well, so that was very, very close between those teams for who gets European football. Trabzonspor just missing out there. If we look at 26-27, Galatasaray champions once again with Besiktas getting promoted this sort of time, getting to the Champions League, finishing 2nd with Fenerbahce in 3rd, Başakşehir in 4th. Antalyaspor in 5th and Kasim Pasha in 6th there as well. Once again, 56 points seems to be that mark to get in that top 6. Season afterwards, same sort of teams in there. Bursaspor are in at this time, though, finishing in 4th. Antalyaspor finishing down 11th, had a pretty poor season, but Besiktas this time win the title from Fenerbahce, and Galatasaray dropping down to 3rd. 28-29 season, Fenerbahce's turn to win the title by quite a distance, 11 points there. Once again, Besiktas in that top 3, but finishing 2nd, and Galatasaray for a 2nd season in a row finishing 3rd. And once again, Başakşehir in that top 6 as well. Bursaspor there as well. Akhisarspor finishing in 5th as well. They're sort of jumped up from somewhere. Where have they done? Blimey, they've done pretty well for themselves. Obviously not all with our help. They've got themselves into the Super League in real life and stayed there, but that's a pretty meteoric rise, I think, those past few seasons there when they did that from 2009 onwards. Basically, that's pretty decent for them. And then the season we just had, Galatasaray regain their title there, winning the title by 2 points over Besiktas. Fenerbahce finishing in third, and of course, actually no, looking down here, Başakşehir having an awful season. I don't know what's happened there to them. I was expecting to see them in fourth, but they weren't. Bursaspor are there, along with these two other teams that I mentioned before. But this team, Karabükspor, not finishing with European place. So I guess they've got some sort of financial issues there, and Trabzonspor instead get that Europa League place. Unless, actually, let's have a look at the rules quickly, because they're perhaps, how many qualification spots do you get? So the top two, Champions League, third Champions League, and the next ones also get Euro Cup, so 4th, 5th and 6th, but it depends on the winner of the Turkish Cup, which was won this past season, which probably means Trabzonspor. Fenerbahce won it. So yeah, I suppose actually, if Fenerbahce won it, obviously 6th place should get it, but they must have financial problems. Trabzonspor obviously got it. We can confirm this by looking at the rules once again. I don't know why I didn't look at that in the first place, really. As we look down, yeah, they failed their licence, so that's why they haven't got the Europa League place, when really they should do. We won't go too in-depth in the first and second divisions at the moment, actually. We've done that in the past few episodes, but now we're sort of getting to the business end of things. We want to look more at European football. We'll have a quick look at these tables, but you can see the teams that are winning it. It's the same sort of teams actually going up and down. Sivasspor going up twice, obviously got promoted, relegated, promoted again. Same with Manisapur. They've gone up and down, and a few of these sides are doing the same thing. So they're sort of the top few teams there, and the playoff winners, of course, also there as well. If we go down to the white group, as you can see here, similar sort of story. Alti going up and down a few times. They've done that a few times, actually, being up and down, sort of yo-yoing between divisions. Top of the second divisions, but bottom of the first division, which is a bit of a disappointment for them, really. Sort of think they'd be able to kick on a little bit. And then, of course, if we look at the red group as well, these are the finishes in those past few seasons. Forgive me for not saying all these names, because some of them I just can't pronounce, and I don't want to butcher them. But actually, in the past few episodes, people have been complimenting me on my pronunciations. So finally, some people are starting to recognise that I can pronounce names. If we look back to the Wales videos and the Irish videos, literally every other comment was, you can't pronounce anything. So it's nice to see that people are taking my unique way of pronouncing things and actually saying it's right. So perhaps Turkish is the language for me to speak. I don't know. We'll have a quick look through the transfers as well, just for the prices. And already in this 25-26 season, Stefan Thirom, coming from Bordeaux to Besiktas for 83 million. Is he still at Besiktas? No, he's at Monaco. But valued at 72 million, he looks like a very, very good player, to be fair. He's a striker, 17 finishing. If he's valued at 72 million and I'm paying that kind of money, I'd want 20 finishing. So that's already a negative for him. But his physicals are very good. Where it matters, I suppose, his striking abilities are good. His teamwork and vision and work rate, stuff like that could be better, I reckon. So I don't think he's worth 72 million looking at him right here. He stayed at Besiktas for 2 seasons and was sold for 37 million to Monaco. So they made a big loss on him there, basically. We'll have to wait and see if it was worth it, of course, if Besiktas win a European competition. But, I mean, with that kind of depreciation and value, he can't have been that good. Ordinarily, that 47 million paid for this guy, Matha Suino, from a Chinese side to Galatasaray, 47 million. That'd be a huge transfer, but that's sort of blown out of the water, really, by this 83 million. So if we go for next season, anything big? Maximilian Romero from Benfica to Galatasaray, 40 million rising to 53. Is he still there? He's still there, valued at 21 million. Has he played a good career? He's had a very, very good career at Galatasaray. So that's probably worth the money, actually, looking at those kind of performances that he's putting in for them week in, week out, which is pretty decent. The season afterwards, only 25 million, very modest. And that was Thirom leaving Besiktas after he was brought in for a ridiculous £83 million. That's crazy kind of money. So he went out 2 seasons later for a lot less money. Season afterwards, Roddy comes in from Shandong to Bursaspor, 29 million. The price is starting to go down a little bit. Is he still at Bursaspor? I hope he is, to be fair, considering that was only last season. 23-year-old Ecuadorian, looks pretty decent actually as a winger. He's got some decent technicals. He's nothing special really, but I'm sure he could probably get there maybe in another season or so. He's played average enough. In fact, considering he's a winger, he's actually played quite poor. Not worth 29 million, would not buy myself. And then this season we've just had 33 million rising to 48 million being spent on Wanas Rosil from Dortmund to Fenerbahce. Fenerbahce splashing the cash, I should say, this summer. Is he any good? Again, another striker. Good finishing, 17 finishing, we'll take that. His physicals, incredible stuff apart from his jumping reach. He was obviously not a target man. If I'm being honest, I reckon he could be as good as that player that was bought for 83 million. I mean, he scored lots of goals, 22 goals, that does not lie. That is a decent return, a 7.54, incredible season. I reckon he could actually be better than the guy that was bought for 83 million. Right, we're going to look at the Euro Cup then, and we're going to go from the second knockout round onwards. And as you can see here, there's 4 Turkish sides getting through to that second knockout round, which is fantastic. Besiktas, though, lose to Benfica 3-2 on aggregate. This is in the 25-26 season, by the way. Başakşehir also losing there to Valencia 4-2 on aggregate. Fenerbahce, sorry, not Besiktas, we've spoken about them already. Fenerbahce lose on away goals to Borussia Mönchengladbach. That's an awful way to go. But Galatasaray are the team that go through. They managed to beat Villarreal 4-2 on aggregate, which is fantastic. So it puts them in the quarterfinals, where they lose, unfortunately, to Liverpool. They had won the first leg, but then lost 3-0 in the second leg, which knocked them out 4-2 on aggregate. So that's a bit of a poor way to go. But, it's a steady start for Turkish sides. At least a few of them are getting into the knockout stages now. That's fantastic. And they're all getting into the, I say further reaches. They're in the second knockout round. That's not that impressive, really. Let's look at the next season then. Fenerbahce there, and they're the only Turkish representation this season in the second knockout round, but luckily they do win. They beat Schalke there, 4-1 on aggregate, a very nice result there. So they go into the quarterfinals, where they beat Arsenal 3-1 on aggregate, so that's pretty decent. Into the semi-finals, Chelsea, AC Milan and Wolfsburg away, all decent sides. Will they win? Unfortunately, they lose 3-2 on aggregate to AC Milan after a 2-2 draw in the first leg. AC Milan providing 2 strong opposition, but Fenerbahce in the semi-finals, that is a decent return. That fair play to them. Well done for that. 27-28 season. Besiktas are there, but they lose, unfortunately, to Arsenal this time round. Fenerbahce are there as well, but they lose to Milan once again. 5-0 on aggregate this time. And Başakşehir are also there as well, but they lose 5-0 on aggregate on. But they lose 5-0 on aggregate as well to Porto. So all being knocked out in the second knockout round this time. Not the best of times there, I suppose. 28-29 season, only Başakşehir there. And they lose on penalties to Leverkusen. Always a harsh way to go. The worst way to go, really. But the only representation from Turkey in the second knockout round this season. Hopefully that means they're in the Champions League instead. I don't know. But obviously not the best kind of return that from Turkish sides. And then the season we have just had, Galatasaray faced Başakşehir in the second qualifying round, and Galatasaray won that 2-0 aggregate. Bursaspor, their first appearance so far in European football that we've seen, they managed to lose to Schalke 5-2 on aggregate. So Galatasaray go through, but no one else does. So let's look at the quarterfinals. Will Galatasaray go through again? They do. They beat Schalke 5-3 in aggregate, a fantastic result there for them. Once again, into the semi-finals they go, and once again they lose in the semi-finals, this time 2-1 to Napoli. Napoli providing 2 strong of an opposition, and Galatasaray just couldn't do it. They've got the semi-finals twice, but haven't been able to win anything, which is unfortunate, of course. They seem to be the best team in Turkey at the moment in the recent years. They've not won the title. They lost it twice, didn't they? But then they won it the season we just had. So they've had some decent years. They just can't quite convert it into a European win. Right, let's look at the Champions League instead then. The first knockout round in that 25-26 season. And unfortunately, no Turkish sides there, which doesn't really bode well. But that was a season where we had lots of teams in the... it was in the Euro Cup, wasn't it? There were 5 teams in there, didn't they, in the first knockout round? So I presume they got knocked out in the group stages, and they all got through, which is pretty good for them. Season afterwards, though, Galatasaray there in that first knockout round, and they beat Tottenham on away goals and to go into the quarterfinals, which is the first time we've seen a Turkish side reach the quarterfinals of the Champions League in this experiment. Where are they? They lose to Man City, though, unfortunately. They lose 3-1 on aggregate, which is very, very unfortunate. Looking at all those teams there, actually, Man City, I'd argue, probably the easiest draw for Galatasaray to have. So it's a bit unfortunate that they couldn't beat them there. They beat Tottenham in that first round, didn't they? The season afterwards, Galatasaray there once again, but unfortunately they lose 4-0 rather to PSG, not 4-2. PSG being too good there. I assume they've won basically everything. We can't see actually, but I'm pretty sure they will have won everything recently. 28-29 season, there's 2 Turkish sides there this time, but both lose. Galatasaray lose 4-2 to Man City, and Fenerbahce lose 4-1 to Seville actually, so not a great result there unfortunately. But at least there's 2 teams there now, which is really, really good. And then the season we have just had, Fenerbahce there once again, but they lose to Inter Milan 5-2 on aggregate. So we're starting to see some more progression with Turkish sides now in the European Championships and the Champions League and the Europa League. We're seeing some more teams in there more consistently, and of course in the Champions League there's more of them there as well in the knockout stages. So I reckon if we sort of bolster their finances a little bit, give them more money and things like that, I reckon next time we go 10 years in the future we could give ourselves the best chance of seeing a Turkish side winning a Champions League, which is of course what we desperately want. So thank you very much for watching today's episode. Next time we'll go 10 years in the future and hopefully we'll see someone winning, basically. That'd be fantastic stuff. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you do drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and I will see you next time for some more Turkish billionaire action.